Alright, welcome back to another game. So we have a Battletech here, which is somewhat interesting. I haven't seen Battletech has kind of fallen out of favor. I think it may come back. It was suppressed by Zeraswil, primarily. It was also not that great against Spite Mage. So here we don't have any Yetis, we don't have like the slam dunk play of a turn 1 Ice Mage, so we're definitely going to level this Patriarch. And then we have the option, we can put this Phoenix either here or here. So I actually like putting it here. There are quite a few bad things that can happen if we just drop it in front. Something like a Patriarch plus a Roar will end up killing our Phoenix and leaving him with a Battletech. So if he doesn't buff it, we can just move it over next turn when we know that the trade is good for us. So here we could set up a trade over 2 turns, or we could move Phoenix over and get in for some damage. I do want to play definitely an Ice Mage here, and I'm not sure what else. I think we could potentially want to play a Warlord after combat over this Patriarch. I think that actually may be the play. So I'm going to set up for a trade over 2 turns. We're killing this guy because he could Ferocious Roar, which would make that survive the Patriarch. We'd prefer to not just open lane a Warlord, and we're definitely not playing it in front of Thundersaur. Hopefully what we're doing is Ice Maging this guy, and then Wall Breakering it. And playing a Thundersaur this turn. So our opponent appears to be playing an older school Grobot deck, which is pretty interesting, and this leaves us with a conundrum. I think now that he grew that Thundersaur, we really do have to kill it. Really don't like giving someone an Arclight Squadron activation. It tends to not work out very well for you in the end, but that being said, let's see, we could take at least 10 off this Thundersaur and kill the Arclight with a Wallbreaker Yeti. And play our own Thundersaur. That's unlikely to be very good. I think I actually may just allow this Thundersaur to hit us for a bit. Getting an additional guy off the Arclight can be a big deal, as he can Sentinel this, Sentinel here, and play an additional guy, which would be pretty devastating. The question here is, do we just let our Ice Mage continually smash in here? Do we do something like Wallbreaker Ferocious Roar? I do want to get this Thundersaur leveled up though. You know, we'll make him have a robot. Sometimes, I've played the deck quite a bit with bots, and you don't always have the robot, and Gargoyle here is terrible, so you really only have Sentinels and Matrix Wardens and other Arcflights. We are going to open lane both of these, just to avoid playing into any sort of Sentinel blowout. And here, if he has sort of an optimal hand for untapping with Arcflight, he can play a guy, he can play Bright Steel Sentinel, and he can Ferocious Roar. Would be our worst case scenario. I'm fine with this. We get to punish him maximally with double Warlord. which is just a huge, huge blowout. It just kills his entire board and leaves us with 5. Albeit not stellar guys, but it does leave us with 5 guys. If you haven't seen the new alternative art promo Thundersaurs, it is pretty sweet. It's Thunderzilla. It's pretty great. I'm not normally a huge fan of some of the promos have been hit or miss. Scorchmane Dragon, I think parts of it are worse than the original, but this, clearly awesome. And this is a guy that we may have a little trouble dealing with here in the near future. We may just Thundersaur in front of it now. And so we can play Wallbreaker, which, you know, will theoretically take care of this if he doesn't have a Sentinel. Or we can Patriarch, which will trigger 4 things. And I'm not sure that I'm not greedy enough to do that. I'm not, yeah, I'm greedy enough to do that. I'm addicted to value. There's just too much value there. And here we just get to just sort of brutally hit him with this Warlord. And that's really, really rough for him. Now, we could let this trade happen and then play a guy after combat. Or we could Uranti Bolt. And I think this guy is about equivalent to either guy that we would play here. I'm just going to Uranti Bolt instead and get the extra 5 damage in. And having a leveled Uranti Bolt is not terrible against Arc Flights and Thundersaurs. It can, once the Thundersaur gets big, you can actually just Uranti Bolt to kill it, as opposed to playing a guy and then taking a bunch of damage to block it. And 2 level 1 Matrix Warden pumping themselves to trade. Totally fine with that. Here we're just going to Ice Mage and Patriarch. We got another Patriarch here. This should be fantastic. He'll likely leave the Thundersaur alone, and we'll get to Patriarch almost a full board. And Glacial Crush, his best creature. Yep, so things worked out pretty much perfectly for us. So here we can just Glacial Crush there, eat his board, deal him a ton of damage, and the game's basically locked up at this point. The game was likely locked up the turn that I was able to kill 3 guys with a single Warlord without losing anything, and that's really the power of this deck. If you've ever played anything with Bright Steel Sentinel, you know how powerful that kind of blowout can be, and Warlord is even better than that.